So a third kind of writing I also love, which is very different to that, but it feels to me kind of similar, is, I suppose, like London fiction. I think it's fair enough to say that's probably a genre in itself.
Hello, my name's Scott Manley Hadley. This is Triumph of the Now TV, #TOTNTV. This episode is all about London. We're speaking to Fernando Sdrigotti about what he loves about the city and why he's moved here from Argentina. We speak to Gavin and Harry Gallen about the proliferation of London set novels. We speak to Budden about how London writing is a genre in itself, and we've got a poem from Wyld to round things off. It's a cracking episode. You're not from London.
No.
Why did you move here?
Oh, well, I came here in 1994 as a child, a 17-year-old guy with my mom, and I really liked it, and then I always wanted to come back. When we have the massive crisis in Argentina of 2001, that was a perfect excuse to come here. I was in Ireland before, and then in France, and then I came to London. And I actually didn't like London at the time, and I thought I was going to stay for 6 months only, until I sorted out some visa paperwork, and then I ended up staying 15 years ago.
Okay. Are the things that appeal to you about London also things that would appeal to you about the UK more generally?
I don't know the UK very well. I'm afraid I'm a very London-based, and what I've been knowing lately doesn't necessarily appeal me a lot about this post-Brexit scenario. But I do like. I love London. It's my city. It's my place in the world.
I mean, do you see it as a collection of places, or as one place in itself?
Yeah. It's a rhizome. It's not like. It's not one country. That's what I liked, because I come from a city in Argentina, Rosario, which is not the capital. Still 2 million people, but it's a very provincial city. Everyone dresses the same, they all look the same, they all have the same santon, the same shoes. And coming to London for me was very like, it opened my mind, in a way that I could never find in my hometown. I know people who live in my hometown and they managed to find that through other means, but I'm not very smart, so I had to come to a place.
Had to go somewhere else to find it.
Yeah, and I think it's changed a little bit. I don't know what's going to happen now, but I still like it here. Mm-hmm. It's home.
It seems that in some ways the kind of London novel is itself a kind of item that can be kind of sold, whereas it seems rare that you'd ever kind of find a kind of book sold on the basis of being a kind of a Birmingham novel, although I don't think that's kind of entirely untrue. There's things like the Rotters Club.
It speaks also volumes about the London centricism of the publishing industry as well. Where a lot of them are going to be mainstream publishers based in central London, keen to promote London-centric writing, because it's interesting to people who don't live there, and it's obviously a massive market. But
is it interesting to people that don't live there, or do people that live there? Do you think lots of people in London presume that everyone wishes they lived in London?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's more interesting, that kind of literature is probably more interesting to people who live in London. It's interesting to anyone if a book's set where you live or where you've been, because you can relate to it and you can walk down the street and say, great, that person walked there in this book. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of writers who don't live in London, will find it tedious, because it's a great place to set stories, because there are so many people, so many chances, but it can just come off. I think, and I know I've done it with my writing. It can come off as a bit alienating. It's a bit of a sort of London club vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do different fictionalizations of London differ?
How do different fiction?
Yeah. How do they differ? How disparate can they be?
I mean, it's such a big. I find it interesting because I think London's almost. It's one of those cities that obviously it's a real physical place, because here we are now. But it also exists definitely in like the sort of collective consciousness, a bit like Paris or New York does. It's the sort of place that's kind of escaped reality, and it kind of exists in people's heads in that way. And there's so many sort of London novels, right?
Yeah.
That's a really difficult question to answer.
But I mean, if you think of it as a genre, what does it hold in common?
Other than what it's about.
Yeah.
I mean, if you write about London, what you can do is very, very good at exploring, I suppose, multiculturalism, the sort of unexpected meetings you have with people, things that wouldn't happen elsewhere. It's those sort of clash of cultures, all that kind of stuff you can really delve into, and I think that's something that's quite common. You've got the sort of deep history here. It's a city that's at least 2,000 years old, so you can draw on all of its very, very, very long, rich history, some very weird history. You can always find new, strange stories. If you're willing to do your research, there's a lot of weird shit that's happened in London, which I think lends itself to fiction. I know certain stories of things that really happened that sound like they're completely made up, but they did happen. I think it's so big and so constantly changing all of the time. You can almost set a story about any kind of person here as well. I find that very interesting.
The next poem is called Higher Ground. It's for anyone who lives on a hill in London. When the floods came, it was slow at first. The water crept over the south bank and people began to get wet feet coming out of the theatre. On the third day, every road out of London was blocked by cars crammed with luggage, bedding pressed against back windows, nervous pets digging claws into children's thighs. It was cold for March. We watched them abandon the cars as the heaters ran the batteries down and the waters rose. We thought we were safe on our hill. After a week, they were kicking down the doors, pale hands reaching through broken glass, while we stabbed at their fingers with kitchen knives.